Hey everybody, our next speaker is an incredible woman, Nikki Burgett, and she is a certified law enforcement instructor that specializes and teaches several courses for the State Department's Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. This lady knows what she's talking about. She has traveled extensively working with Kurdish security forces in Iraq, training spear teams, teaching anti-terrorism courses in the Philippines. She's been all over the world. She's got advanced homeland security training, and she's truly a knowledgeable person that comes from a place of experience to really help others prevent and mitigate acts of violence. So, oh my gosh, you guys get ready for a deep dive into life-changing information from Nikki.
Hi, and welcome to Violent Incidents, Planning to Respond. My name is Nikki Burgett, and I'm a behavioral threat assessment specialist who has worked in both the private and public sectors. This session has been adapted from my online course, Active Threat, Plan, Prevent, Respond. I chose Planning to Respond because even if you never take the full course, you still have a solid ground on which to build, and planning covers responding to all types of violence, not just active threat. From what I've come to learn of TWAW members, you are an empowered group of women who recognize and understand that threats are real. Because you acknowledge this, you are already far more advanced than many of the civilians I'm accustomed to working with. Congratulations. Like the river in Egypt, denial can be difficult to get over. I'm sure you've heard the saying, failing to plan is planning to fail. I imagine some of you have friends and family members who believe planning involves hope. Hoping that help arrives before the threat causes them harm. Hoping acts of violence never happen to them. Hoping that watching all those John Wick movies will provide a magic hero response. And hoping that time that they've spent shooting paper targets at the range will prepare them to respond to someone returning fire. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how to alter your mindset and examine both your physical and mental capabilities in order to formulate an agile response plan to acts of violence. And I use the word agile because there's no realistic way to formulate a plan for every conceivable act of violence. The information provided in this session will allow you to get more out of your physical training, ultimately making you more effective in your response.
We are so honored to have Nikki Burgett sitting down with us for some Q&A. Ladies, we don't have any questions yet, and I know you got them out there. So start sending some questions for Nikki. We have a little bit of time with her, so we're going to try to get as much in as possible.
Well, I didn't think it was possible to go from having like a conversation about full-on cosmetology and how beautiful her makeup is into what we're about to discuss, because this woman literally is the epitome of can do it all and is a badass. Like, unbelievable. Yeah. I was blown away by your PowerPoint and how enlightening everything was, because I think a lot of us have experienced different body response stressors from going from white to black. And I mean, you're like, I get what's happening in this situation, and the way you colorized it, and it was incredible.
So it's Cooper's color code, which a lot of people are familiar with, but they don't really focus on how that impacts them. And the example that I use is just how difficult it is to even dial 911 when you're under stress. And I work in law enforcement, but I've experienced that before, where I'm like, why won't my phone work? Well, it's operator error. And then under stress, even the small things, like you cannot make your body react. And someone else gave me an example of, they were using cold ice water, and they were it's like so much time in the ice water, and then they had to pull the hands out and try to load their weapon and fire. It's like that. If you're under stress and you have to do something small and minute, dialing 911, loading your weapon, it just becomes incredibly difficult. So this is where muscle memory comes in. And then the more you do it, the more your body will just react. And even if your mind's in black, or you think you're in black, then your body's just, nope, we're going because we've already practiced this and we know what you're doing. It's okay.
Yeah. I've been in a situation where I had someone try to break in my house, and my hand went directly for my firearm, finger off the trigger, pointed in a safe direction because I had been practicing. But when I called 911 and they asked me for my name, the first thing you learn as a baby, my name, I couldn't remember my name. I said, Brittany, which is my middle name.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I get it. It's real. It's a real thing.
There was a story that somebody had told me where a guy was he was confronted by a gang member who had pulled a weapon on him, and he said that he was going to pull his weapon, but somebody from behind him had actually shot him and put him down, and he was shocked. He was like, "Wow, I didn't even have to fire because." And there was no one behind him, and his gun was in his hand. So without even thinking, because he had done this so many times, he drew his weapon and put him down, and he thought someone else had done it.
Wow, that is incredible. And it goes back to, you don't rise up to the occasion, you fall back to your level of training.
Lowest level of training, yes. And that's hard for us. But the body can't go where the mind hasn't been. So if we don't train our minds first, then we are tactical. We have a lot of really cool stuff.
I'm going to pause you there because someone just asked, can you give specific mental training exercises?
Yes. So playing the what if game is a big one. It's anytime you walk into a new location, you go, okay, so if something was to happen right now, what is my primary exit? What's my secondary exit? What exit could I force if I had to? A window. What am I going to use to break it? You do this all the time, and it comes down to, it doesn't take a whole lot of time, 30 seconds to a minute, and you're like, okay, I'm done. I feel good about what my options are. When something happens, because we don't say if, when something happens, this is what I'm going to do. And I know we call it the what if game, but I guess we could call the what win game.
What win game?
The what win game. But it's what we're doing, and you have to have a plan. And there's two things that you have to think about. One, what am I mentally willing to do? And what am I physically capable of doing? And when you start doing your what if, okay, so I'm on the third floor. I'm going to break the window. What am I going to use? Do I know if the glass has the safety film on it? Am I willing to jump out of a third story floor window? People have survived from that kind of height. They've actually survived from higher, but can you make yourself jump? And that's a big thing. And if you're not there, then you need a different plan. So Sun Tzu says, know yourself, know your enemy. Knowing your enemy gives you good offense. Knowing yourself gives you good defense. So in this presentation, really what they're focused on is what am I? Who am I? What am I willing to do to survive? And there are three things that I want everyone to remember. One is move. 2 is breathe. 3 is survive. And that survival is up to you. That plan of survival is yours. And I can't tell you what that is. I can't tell you how to formulate it because I don't know who you are. And every situation is different. And that's really what training your mind is about. And just going through the what if this happens and having agile plans, because you can't plan for every situation. You just have to know this is what I'm going to do and then go with it.
We're going to go a little bit over on this session, but response to threat. In your PowerPoint, you talked about a lot of women second guessing, or people second guessing what they hear. Oh, it wasn't a gunshot. It was a car backfiring. And then seeing, not necessarily believing, and freezing before the fight or flight kicks in.
Yes.
Walk us through that a little bit and how we can possibly mentally become more responsive to getting through this process.
Okay, so the first part is you need to make sure that you do say when. And by saying when, that helps you overcome that. When you hear something, your first response is to put it in a benign box, because that's what we do. We compartmentalize things. We hear a sound and we're in a situation where we're not on the range. So why would that be firearms? I mean, I know what firearms sound like, but I'm not in a situation where I should be hearing it. So we're going to go ahead and just automatically stick it in this box. That means it's somebody dropped something heavy, somebody slammed a door. I'm not concerned about it. And you need to really question it. It's a loud noise. Okay, so what is it? And really let your body is going to tell you there's something wrong. Pay attention to it. When you're inside, the acoustics make that the rounds sound very different. So even if you recognize that it's firearms and that it's a shotgun, or sorry,
Any sort of firearm.
yeah, any
Any
sort of
firearm.
that you may not know immediately the direction that it's coming from. So that is also important to think about. If you can do any type of live fire training, like at a shoot house, or where they do blanks inside of a building. I've been to a lot of active shooter events where they'll do that. Those are things that you can do because it really makes you understand, hey, this is, wow, it sounds really different. The seeing what you're believing is when you see things and you're like, well, that can't be, that's not what I think it is. It cannot be what I think it is. And part of that is because we will say, well, if something ever happens, or stuff like that never happens to me. You may have friends that say that. I still do, and I try to convince them otherwise. But it's all about changing that mindset. So we don't say if, we say when. We don't second guess that those hairs on the back of your neck or that feeling in the pit of your stomach. Your body is telling you something. Pay attention, and it doesn't matter if you're wrong. It is okay to be wrong. It doesn't mean you're paranoid. It just means that you're prepared
and aware.
And aware.
Yes, and aware is absolutely important. But the freeze part is, that's our go-to as humans. That it's because we can't overcome. It's because we can't believe what we heard. We don't believe what we see, and then we're at a point where when we realize, our body realizes that oh crap moment.
We're in shock.
Yes.
Like,
then we're like, what do I do? What do I do? So the first response should never be to freeze. Flee should be the first one, but that's not always going to be an option. And I'm not here to tell you make fight your first response, but you may be in a position where that is the only thing that you can do. So you need to be prepared for, what are my options, which is why you've already identified several exits and weapons of opportunity. You may not have your weapon on you. And because of the work I do, I often don't have one. So you look for whatever it's going to take. And if that's your thumb in their eye, you're going all the way through it. So you do whatever it takes to survive, but it's just up to you as an individual to decide what that is.
I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question. I know we're running behind. We just don't have enough time for you. I wish we had way more time, but many of our ladies are in their later 70s and they fear they're not strong enough to react to a physical encounter. What can they do to build confidence besides becoming mentally prepared?
So intent. There's a couple of books that I highly recommend. One is The Gift of Fear. The second one is When Violence is the Answer. And it's a wealth of information. I don't know either of these wonderful authors, but I will tell you, I shamelessly promote them because their content is that good. The intent of the threat is to bring you harm, whether to end your life, to rob you, whatever it is. But they know exactly what it is that they're willing to do that. I want you to understand who you are as a person and know what you're willing to do to survive and go all in. And no matter what your age is or their size versus your size, there are things that you can do to them that will put them down. So eyes, throat, groin, those are the three. And I work in law enforcement and I'm a lot smaller than most people that I arrest. So it's, what am I willing to do and what can I do? But your intent has to be above theirs. Your intent to survive has to be greater than their intent to do you harm.
As we wrap up, where can these ladies find more of, how can they connect with you? Your website, your courses?
So I have online courses. They can go to my website, which is nikkiburgett.com, and go to the training tab, and that gives you access to the online courses. And if they sign up for the active threat course today, then they get Preventing Violent Attacks for free. So I'll just get a notification when they're ready to take the second course, because each one of them has a certain amount of time that they have access to it. All they have to do is shoot me an email and say, I'm ready to take that second course, and I will get them enrolled.
Awesome.
That is exciting that you guys can continue this virtual conversation with Nikki and continue to further your education and helping us be aware and safe. And we really appreciate your time. And thank you so much for being here.
No problem. They can email me directly. They can also text me. I tend not to answer my phone because I really don't want that extended warranty on my car.
Yeah.
But if they have any questions, they feel free to contact me directly. I will always respond.
Great. Thank you so
Thank you
much
so
for that.
much.
I
Thank you
know
for
the
having
ladies
me.
are very thankful.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We will be back.